Hello everyone, and welcome back to English EchoLingo. I'm your host, Mike. Can you hear it? Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Beyond the sound of my voice, can you hear the crashing of cold, gray waves against the wooden pilings of an old pier? Can you smell the salt in the air, mixed with the thick, damp scent of morning mist? Today, we aren't just studying grammar or memorizing vocabulary lists. No, today we are stepping back in time. We are traveling to the 18th century, to a small, foggy port town, where the air is heavy with secrets and the tavern fires burn low. Today, we dive into a story of courage, the chilling fear of the unknown, and the fragile nature of trust. I've reimagined a classic tale, the legendary Treasure Island, to create something new for us. Through this adventure, we are going to explore the English language not as a set of rules, but as a living, breathing tool for survival and discovery. Why does a story like this help your English grow? Because when you feel the tension of a dark hallway, or the spray of the ocean on your face, the words stick. They become memories, not just data points. So, take a deep breath. Prepare your mind. We are about to set sail on a journey that will challenge your understanding and fire up your imagination. Imagine a quiet inn called the Admiral's Rest. It sits on a cliff overlooking the sea. The protagonist of our story is a young man named Leo. Leo is honest, hardworking, and perhaps a bit too curious for his own good. His life is quiet until the day Captain Silas arrives. Silas was a man who looked like he had been carved out of old oak wood. He had a deep, jagged scar running down his left cheek, and his eyes were always darting, always searching the horizon. He stayed at the inn for weeks, speaking to no one, drinking bitter tea, and clutching a heavy, weather-beaten chest as if it contained his very soul. One evening, when the mist was so thick you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face, Silas called Leo to his side. His voice was a low growl. He told Leo, "Keep an eye out for a man with one eye. If you see him, you run." But the one-eyed man never came. Instead, Silas fell ill. As he lay dying, he grabbed Leo's wrist with surprising strength and whispered, "The map. The map is in the lining. Don't let them find it." With those final words, the old captain collapsed. Leo found the map, a piece of yellowed parchment, covered in strange symbols and a blood-red X, marking a spot in the middle of the ocean. This, my friends, was the map of destiny. Leo knew he couldn't stay at the inn. He sought help from a local gentleman, and soon, a grand ship called the Sea Spirit was outfitted for a voyage. But a ship needs a crew. And that is where our story takes a turn toward the shadows. Among the crew was a man who would change Leo's life forever: the ship's cook, Barnaby. Known to many as the Fox, Barnaby was charming. He had a silver tongue and a quick laugh. He walked with a slight limp, but he moved with the grace of a predator. He befriended Leo instantly, teaching him how to tie knots and sharing stories of the high seas. Leo trusted him. He felt safe with Barnaby. But as the Sea Spirit sailed further into the vast, blue emptiness of the Atlantic, the atmosphere began to shift. One night, Leo couldn't sleep. The ship was creaking, swaying rhythmically. He felt a sudden hunger and made his way to the galley to find an apple. He climbed into a large wooden barrel, reaching for the last few pieces of fruit at the bottom. As he sat hidden inside the barrel, he heard voices. Familiar voices. It was Barnaby, the fox. But the voice wasn't warm and friendly anymore. It was cold, sharp, and calculating. Barnaby was talking to a group of sailors about a mutiny. He was planning to wait until the treasure was found. Then kill Leo and the others to take it all for himself. In that dark, cramped barrel, Leo's world shattered. He realized that the man he admired was a monster wearing a mask of kindness. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Leo stayed silent, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He realized then that the fox earned his name. Not through bravery, but through cunning. When the ship finally reached the island, a jagged, volcanic rock rising out of the sea like a broken tooth, Leo managed to slip away from the landing party. He ran into the dense, humid jungle, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He was lost, alone, and hunted. But he was not the only soul on the island. While hiding in a cave, Leo encountered a man who looked like a ghost. His hair was long and matted. His clothes were mere rags, and his skin was burnt dark by the sun. This was Kale. Kale had been marooned, abandoned on the island for 3 long years. He spoke in riddles at first, his mind frayed by years of solitude. But Kale knew the truth about the treasure. He knew it wasn't just gold. It was a curse that had destroyed every man who sought it. Kale became Leo's unexpected ally, a man of hidden depth, who had found a different kind of wealth in the silence of the island, the wealth of self-reflection. The climax of our tale arrived when Barnaby and his pirates tracked Leo to the cave. The air was thick with the scent of tropical flowers and gunpowder. Barnaby stood at the entrance, his face illuminated by a torch. He looked at Leo and smiled that same charming smile. But his eyes were as hard as flint. "Give me the map, Leo," he said softly. "Don't make this difficult." But Leo had changed. He wasn't the frightened boy from the inn anymore. He had learned that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. With Kale's help, Leo led the pirates into a series of traps Kale had built over the years. The pirates, blinded by their greed, fell into pits and were scattered by falling logs. In the final confrontation, Barnaby and Leo stood face to face. On a narrow cliff, Barnaby lunged, but his limp betrayed him. He slipped, falling toward the churning sea below. At the last second, Leo reached out and caught Barnaby's hand. For a moment, they stared at each other, the mentor who betrayed and the student who survived. "Why?" Barnaby whispered. Leo didn't answer. He pulled Barnaby up, saving his life, but the bond was broken. Barnaby vanished into the night, escaping into the jungle, leaving the gold behind. Leo, Kale, and the loyal members of the crew eventually found the treasure, but more importantly, they found their way home. Now, let's step out of the story and into our interactive vocabulary masterclass. I want to pull out some of the key expressions we used, because these are the gems you can take away from today's adventure. First, we had the word rough. I described the sea and Silas's life as rough. In English, rough can mean a surface that isn't smooth, like sandpaper. But in conversation, we use it to describe difficulty. If you had a bad day at work, you can say, "I had a rough day." It conveys a sense of being tired and worn down by challenges. Next, we saw the word scar. Silas had a physical scar, a mark left by an old wound. But we often talk about emotional scars. When Barnaby betrayed Leo, it left a scar on his heart. It's a powerful way to describe how past experiences stay with us and shape who we are. Then, there's the phrase keep an eye out. Silas told Leo to keep an eye out for the one-eyed man. This is an incredibly common idiom. It simply means to watch carefully or to be alert. If you are waiting for a friend at a busy station, you might say, "I'll keep an eye out for you near the entrance." We also used the word pale. When Leo heard the mutiny plan, he turned pale. His face lost its color because of fear. You can use this when someone looks sick or very shocked. "Are you okay? You look a bit pale." Lastly, consider the word collapse. Captain Silas collapsed when he died. To collapse means to fall down suddenly because of pressure or weakness. You can also use it for objects like a chair collapsing or even for plans. Our travel plans collapsed because of the storm. Now, I want you to try something with me. It's called shadowing. I'm going to say a sentence from the story with a lot of emotion. And I want you to repeat it back to me, mimicking my tone and rhythm. Ready? The map. The map is in the lining. Don't let them find it. Feel the desperation in that sentence. Let the words flow out of you. This is how you move from studying English to feeling English. As we bring this episode of English EchoLingo to a close, let's reflect on our journey. Leo started as a boy who followed orders and trusted everyone. By the end, he was a man who could navigate both a jungle and the complex motivations of the human heart. He realized that the world isn't divided simply into good and evil. Barnaby disappeared at the end, didn't he? We don't know where he went. Perhaps he is still out there, on another island, in another tavern, telling stories to another young boy. Life is often like that, unresolved, mysterious, and full of what-ifs. I want you to think about your English learning journey as your own personal treasure island. There will be times when the sea is rough. There will be times when you feel like you are in a dark barrel, overwhelmed by the complexity of the language. You might even feel marooned. Like Kale, practicing your English alone with no one to talk to. But remember Leo. Remember his courage to keep moving forward. The treasure isn't just reaching fluency. It's the person you become while you are trying to get there. You are becoming more observant, more patient, and more resilient. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure sharing this adventure with you. If you found today's story helpful, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'll see you in the next episode.